Now, next up on stage, I present to you a one-on-one with Mr. William E. Heinecke, the founder and chairman of 𝗪𝗏 International, which is one of the world's largest hospitality and lifestyle groups. And he's going to be in conversation with Manav Thadani, the chairman, founder of Hotelivate. Now, as chairman of 𝗪𝗏 International, Mr. Heinecke oversees a diversified portfolio that includes one of Asia's largest restaurant companies, 𝗪𝗏 Food, which operates over 2,500 outlets globally, and 𝗪𝗏 Hotels, which currently boasts more than 530 hotels in 56 countries. His leadership has cemented 𝗪𝗏 International's reputation for excellence in hospitality, dining, and retail. Please welcome them both to the stage for a one-on-one.
Good morning, Bill.
Morning. Good evening. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. Come a long way.
Well, thank you.
Did you come directly, or you were?
I came from Paris, so
Paris.
This is a favorite time of the year for automobile enthusiasts. It's called 𝗪𝗏𝘃𝘀𝘀.
Right.
All the vintage cars are on display, being sold, or they just sold a Ferrari for 34 million euros. So,
Did you buy it?
I'm not talking about it. No, I didn't. I passed.
So, before we start, Bill, really want to know, you have boats, we spoke about cars, we don't know if you bought the cars yet, planes. Who's really paying Bill?
Well, we're a public company, so it's all disclosed in our annual report. And I'm not the highest paid person in the company, so bear that in mind.
Right. But you have expensive hobbies.
I have very expensive hobbies, but fortunately, that's one of the things that after working for 60 years, you can, begin to enjoy it a little bit more.
Right, right. And while we're talking, we have all your properties coming up one by one. Okay. So why minor? Why not colonel, general, major? Why minor?
Well, you got to remember, I started this company when I was 17 as an alternative to going off to university. And I didn't realize at that time that I wasn't old enough to sign the bank statements or the bank application or the company incorporation. Right. I had to get my parents to co-sign. So I borrowed $1,200, went to the lawyers, and we registered the first company. And he said, "What are we going to call it?" And I said, "I don't know. You tell me." And he said, "Well, most names are taken, Bill." So he said, "You're still a minor?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, that's it. We'll call it minor. If I'd been over 21, it could have been major."
That's right.
So, but it's stuck ever since.
Good, but it's done well for you, so no complaints on
no
that
complaints.
front, right? So a quick, for this audience, because you're new in this region, how many hotels in your portfolio?
Today, I think I may have heard a misquote, but we're close to 560 in 58 countries,
right,
and rapidly approaching 600.
Right. And I remember just before COVID, you acquired NH Hotel Group.
Yes.
And at that point of time, it seemed like an expensive buy. I don't know if you still feel that way or not. And then COVID came, and everyone kind of said, "Oh my God, Bill is going to lose all his bills."
Exactly. And, that was the biggest acquisition that we'd ever made. It was just close to $3 billion. It was about 2.8 billion euros. And what we didn't realize is that COVID was coming, and at one stage we then had 550 hotels, and at one point in COVID we had 525 hotels closed. Right. So that gives you an idea. We lost, for the first time, we had 8 quarters of loss. Being a public company, we have to report every quarter, and that amounted to about $1 billion of losses, real losses, cash losses. And I reassured myself that actually, it wasn't a $3 billion purchase of NH, it was a $4 billion purchase.
Right.
So but we came back, and I think we'll announce our results tomorrow for the full year last year, and there'll be record results. And I think not only will the shareholders be happy, but everybody will be happy, and I'll be happy
so it's
as a major shareholder.
It's beginning to pay off. I mean, in hindsight, obviously we went through a lot during COVID, but you're happy with that purchase?
Absolutely. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Right. And can you share with us your vision for the Middle East? This is a new part of the world for you. I know you have, I think, 60 plus hotels, or you're putting
We have
more?
24 in 3 GCC countries right now.
Right.
We have 60 probably under development. You know, the goal that we've given to Dilip, our CEO, is 850 hotels by 2028. And I think we're on target to hit that. So we just opened, the most recent hotel we opened was in Zimbabwe, the Anantara at Stanley and Livingston, a game park there, which will be supported by our Zambia properties. We have both an Avani and an Anantara in Zambia. So.
And is there a particular country in the GCC that you would like to focus more on, or not necessarily?
Absolutely. You know, Saudi is a very hot topic for all of us, and we've got a number of projects coming up there, one in Neom, in Trojena. We've also got 𝗃 in Riyadh, and we're working on a couple of projects in Jeddah. So that's an important market for us. But we've still got places in the world where we don't have big representation. We're just announcing the first 2 projects in Japan, which we haven't been in before, and that's the #1 destination for Thailand, outbound. You know, New York, we've got, in the United States and North America, we only have 1 hotel. We're very strong in South America.
Right.
But with only 1 hotel in North America, that's obviously another area that we're looking at closely. The whole of the GCC in the Middle East is a very active market. We have a couple of hotels opening in Bahrain.
And you said Africa, you had some stuff as well.
We have a lot of stuff in Africa because we bought the Sun hotels, most of the Sun hotels. We didn't buy Sun City because that was losing too much money. But we did buy a number of those, and we have a shareholding in Eliwana, which is the tenant camps in Kenya and Tanzania.
Right.
And then we have a number of Anantaras also in Africa now. So we're well represented with all of our brands.
And I'm glad to note that you're finally focusing on India as well.
Absolutely.
I've been chasing you for 10 years now,
know,
and I think this is the first time you've actually got a team, and you're going after India aggressively.
So we have 2 properties there now. So.
Right. We're doing hopefully a 3rd one, a 4th one
absolutely.
soon. So 1/3 of your hotels, if I'm correct, are owned, 1/3 are leased, and the rest are managed. Is that going to change for you going forward, or do you like that?
But you got it wrong. We have actually 1/3 are owned and 1/3 are under long-term lease.
Right.
We only have 1/3 that are actually managed by us.
That's what I said, 1/3, 1/3,
Yeah,
1/3.
sorry.
Yeah, okay.
But as a result of that, that means we're probably one of the few pretty asset-heavy still companies.
Right, and you're going to go more asset-light going forward?
We will, definitely. I don't think we're now contemplating, franchising any of our 5-star brands like Anantara, but certainly I think as we get into franchising for some of the other brands, we'll certainly look at that as a way of growing without adding more to our balance sheet.
Right. And then, if I'm correct, and maybe things have changed, but if I recall correctly, you had some hotels which were Marriott operated or Marriott brands,
We still have,
right?
we have historic hotels from our portfolio. We have 3 Four Seasons hotels still to this day. And when you sign a Four Seasons contract, bear in mind, they'll be there long after I'm gone because they're rather long contracts that they commanded and still command.
How does that work for you?
Well, for us, it's great because it gives us an opportunity to see how they operate. We compare ourselves to, we own a St. Regis, we own a JW Marriott, we own 3 Four Seasons. We actually own those properties.
Correct.
And they're managed by those companies.
And then you just asset manage those.
And we just asset manage those, but it gives us a chance to really compare our performance against their performance. So for what I call a housekeeping fee, which is the management fee, we get to observe, how they're doing and compare ourselves directly to them. And we get, a free look at best practices in the industry.
And those are hotels which are owned by Minor, which
That's
is a
correct.
public company.
It's a public
not
company.
a personal.
That's right. No,
right.
not a personal.
Okay.
The only thing I own personally are the things that lose money. We have
So the
boats,
Ferrari,
boats, Ferraris, planes. Those all lose money. Those are in the personal category.
Right. So what's your favorite brand from amongst your portfolio?
Amongst my portfolio, it has to be Anantara. We created that back in 2001. And it's been an incredible journey. You know, we've got close to 50 hotels now, 9 in Europe, which if you would have told me, 5 years ago we'd have 9 hotels in Europe, I would have said you're joking. You know, Anantaras, we have a lot of NH and other hotels, but the acquisition of NH really allowed us to move quickly into Europe and South America.
Right. I have to admit that you are one of the few global CEOs who's willing to put and say, this is my preferred brand, because most other CEOs say, oh, all of them are good, and they'll give a very diplomatic response, to the whole thing. And
ask me about my grandchildren, then I'll tell you they're all my favorites.
Fair enough. So in terms of favoring upscale versus luxury, I don't know if you've ever looked at budget economy, but where do you think where the owners who are here can make the most amount of money?
Well, certainly we've found it in the upscale, and we've seen that with Anantara, and especially following COVID, we've seen an incredible, and if you see our results tomorrow, we had an incredible 2024, a record year for us, and record earnings, and it was really, driven by the higher end rates that we're getting, the high rates. The cost of travel now is so expensive. So the real lift for our earnings came from Anantara and our upper end brands. But the growth opportunity obviously is with some of the mass brands. And we do have a small one in Australia called 𝗍𝗍, which really caters to the budget traveler. And Oaks itself, being service departments, we've got a whole range of Oaks products that also cater to the budget traveler.
Right. Tell me, I know you're fond of planes. Anything in the aviation space? And is it all personal, or is there some business there too?
It started very personal because I took up flying back in the 80s. Got my flying license, my pilot's license, and also got a helicopter license. So I did a lot of flying, and that was one of the ways that we grew quickly. We were able to get around, and then that was called minor aviation in those days, in the 80s. And then we moved up to jets, in 2000, and then it became MJets. So today we have 5 aircraft that we own, or the family owns. That, as I said, that loses money, but it does get me around in style. So
did you fly here in your private jet, or you flew
I
commercial?
have. I prefer to sit in the back seat now. The champagne's better than sitting there, but. Yeah, no, but I've always enjoyed aviation, boats, planes, you name it. We even have trains now. So.
Oh, I should have put that into the headline.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's paying the bill for that too? Talking about restaurants, because that's slightly more closer to my heart, can you delve into? I think you're one of the biggest restaurant owners in Thailand, at least. And so can you tell a little bit?
Actually, in the world, we have something like, if you count all of our direct and indirect interests, we have well over 3,000 restaurants under various brands. We own, a number of fast casual dining, such as Burger King and 𝗵cie 𝘁𝗃, which is a brand we created, and we operate those in about 25 countries. But we also acquired some of the upper end stuff, and that is really what sets us apart from many of our peers. We own the 𝗁𝗁 Hospitality Group. So in London, we've got 𝗁𝗁, we've got 𝗀𝗲𝗁, we've got 𝗀𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁's, we've got a number of very high-end restaurants. We also bought 𝗵𝘃𝗁, which is still after 60 years is an incredible brand. And we have all the 𝗵𝘃𝗁's outside of the United States. So here in the Middle East, we also have a presence with 𝗵𝘃𝗁. And then we own a Thai restaurant chain called Patara in London. And we have a number of those there and also in Asia. And so we've got a good presence. We're also Din Tai Fung. We just opened one at Selfridges in London. And we have.
Do you own DTF only for certain countries?
That's only for certain countries, but we own a part of the parent company. So we own a company called BreadTalk, which operates in a number of markets. It came out of Singapore. We own 26% of that company. We own S&P, which owns Patara and a bakery company, and that's we're the largest shareholder in that company. 36%. It's a public company, and so that gives us a lot of exposure. But BreadTalk owns Din Tai Fung for Thailand, UK, Singapore, Hong Kong.
You need to add India to that. I'll become your partner.
All right, thank you. So one of my favorite foods.
Yeah, I love
But we also own 10%, 10 or 15% of Din Tai Fung from Taiwan globally.
Right. Yeah, look, I think that brand is phenomenal. And for me, it's one of my preferred venues. If there's a DTF, I'll seek it out and go and eat out there.
You know, and that's one of the things, if you really look at a company today like any of the big food companies, McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, they're basically also totally asset light. So they own very few of their restaurants. They're all franchised. We still own 52%. So if you looked at our balance sheet, you'd see one hell of an opportunity. If we choose to sell half our restaurants, which we own, we can still collect the royalties.
Correct.
But we could sell those to franchisees. So that would reduce our balance sheet dramatically. And the other thing, which we haven't done and which we will probably do later this year, is form a REIT with our properties, because we have so many properties that we own, and we haven't done a real estate development. But that's all designed to try and wipe out some of that debt that we acquired when we bought NH.
Right.
So,
And is the restaurant business housed within the hospitality, the minor, or they're two separate companies?
we operate them as two divisions of a public company. So we have the food division and we have the hotel division.
With different teams and
Different
obviously
teams and whatnot.
looking at.
But I must tell you that the Benihana and the Wolseley Hospitality Group operate as a separate unit, but under the hotel group, whereas the Burger Kings and the Sizzlers and Dairy Queens all operate under our food group.
Correct. And are some of these brands finding their way into your hotels as well?
Yes. Again, on the budget area, we have a number of coffee clubs. We have a coffee club which we own in Australia. It's bigger than Starbucks in Australia, and it's fairly good size in other countries. And we're in IHG hotels. We're in 𝗵𝗃𝘁𝗍𝗍 hotels. As a replacement to all-day dining. So we would put in a coffee club which has got a bar and it's got breakfast, and we can serve 3 meals a day.
Right. You brought up 𝗵𝗃𝘁𝗍 and that dress. How did you come up with that name? Does that have a meaning or?
Well, like Anantara, we turned to Sanskrit. All the good names. It's a bit like minor. All the good names have been taken in the hotel field, by somebody or other. So we went to Sanskrit, and Anantara means ever-flowing water.
Right.
𝗵𝗃𝘁𝗍 means very solid, well positioned in the ground.
Right.
So those are 𝗵𝗃𝘁𝗍 and Anantara. And 𝗵𝗃𝘁 sort of sounded Italian, so.
𝗵𝗃𝘁 sounded Italian. Good. So what's been the most rewarding part of your journey?
And the most rewarding, probably my great-grandchildren,
How many do you have?
I have 2 great-grandchildren, so we're 4 generations now. And in Thailand, when you, after the 3rd generation, your name, and I happen to have the name Heinecke, so that is now a Thai name. So after 3 generations, then it becomes a Thai name. We're 4 generations Thai.
Right.
So I gave up my U.S. citizenship long before it was popular to give it up back in the 90s. So that was, nobody, they couldn't understand, why would you want to give up your American citizenship to take Thai citizenship? That was just strange. There was no question about, is it for tax reasons? They just couldn't believe it. Half the Thais were going to America to have their children so they could have an American passport.
Right.
So.
And if you had a chance to enter a new business today, what would that be?
Well, we got into planes. That was purely recreational for me. But then we set up 𝗵Jets, which is the largest charter and fixed base operation in Thailand. And, we've got a few boats that the family owns, but we don't have a cruise ship. So, there you go.
A cruise business?
Keep watching this space. Yeah, we would love to have a cruise business. Everybody else is venturing into that area. Why shouldn't we?
Right. Well, the other one is casinos, but let's not go there. But what advice would you give to youngsters today? Anything, and particularly when they're entering the industry?
I think, for me, it's always been the harder I work, I guess, the luckier I get. And, I often tell youngsters when I'm talking with them that, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but it's how you spend that 24 hours. And, I always figured that if I spent, 16 hours working, I'd get wherever the other guys that spend 8 hours twice as quickly. And that worked for me because I don't have that college degree that so many of my peers have.
Right. And if you did have that 25th hour, how would you spend that?
You know, I think it's really more important to figure out how you spend your 24 than it is that 25th. And, you know, for me, as I said, it's squeezing everything into those 24 hours.
Right.
And I don't think anyone can accuse me of not squeezing in, you know, a lot into my 24 hours.
Right. And if you had 3 things left for your bucket list, what would 3 things be still to do on your bucket list?
I haven't dived the 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝗀𝗍. That would be an interesting one for me. I've got a bigger boat now that I'm going to make sure I spend some time in Indonesia doing some diving. I can now take my boat from Thailand. It's big enough to go to Indonesia and do some diving. And, you know, and I must say the excitement of what's happening here in the Middle East keeps me coming back. I think I've been here almost every month.
That can't be part of your bucket list to come fly down here.
It is, you know, believe it or not, when we first came here, our first operating unit in the Middle East was a spa. And it was in the old Emirates Palace, the 𝗵𝘃𝘁 in those days.
Correct.
And then it was from there we went into, you know, 𝗪𝗵𝘁𝘁𝘀𝗵 Island with all the animals, and then to 𝗪𝗪𝘁𝘁𝗁. And so the Middle East has really played a very important role for us. And I'd like to see that continue, and especially with Saudi coming up. You know, there's nothing hotter than Saudi, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because they've got tremendously ambitious plans, and they're no doubt going to face a few disappointments, but I think in the end they're going to prevail.
Right. And, you know, if there was a current industry trend which you thought, I'm talking about hotels, which you think was short-lived, or one trend that you wished that would disappear forever, what would that be?
One trend to disappear forever? Oof. Probably negotiating with owners. So, no, all kidding aside, no, I couldn't tell you what trend I'd like to see. You know, we've seen so many positive trends come out. You know, for me, it's been very exciting to see what we call soft power.
Right.
You know, White Lotus, and you know, how many times would a film, you know, ever have an impact on a tourism industry? But you could see what that did to Sicily and Hawaii, you know, during COVID. And episode 3 is coming out tomorrow.
Right.
I'll be going back for the premiere tonight in Thailand, and that's going to have a huge impact. It was filmed in 5 of our hotels. And everybody asked me, how much did we pay them to film in our hotels? And I said, we didn't pay them anything. They paid us.
You just gave them free rooms.
No, we didn't give them any free rooms. No free rooms. Trust me, you know, we're a small company. We don't do that. I've got to pay the bills. You know, so no, there were no free rooms, and they used our hotels for something like 6 months.
Right.
You know, different hotels, they locked them up for 6 weeks, complete buyouts.
So what's the most unusual or unexpected challenge you have faced when opening a new hotel in a new market?
You know, I guess one of the things which I've always found is that when we open up in a new market, you know, very often I tell our general manager, you know, how are we doing? Or we see a competitor open up, and I send him over to see it, and he comes back and says, well, you know, we do a better breakfast, our rooms are nicer, housekeeping is better. I said, no, I didn't send you over there to tell you what we're doing better. I sent you over there to find out what they're doing better. And that's often overlooked, you know.
Right.
And for me, I learn something new every day. And I tell people that the day I stop learning is the day I'm going to retire. But I can go to a 3-star hotel and find something that they're doing better than we're doing, and learn from that.
So if you had to be a mystery shopper at your own hotel, what's the first thing that you typically do to inspect something?
I guess, you know, I learned long ago from, I think it was Bob Burns, you know, that what you do is you go in and you order a hamburger. And if a hotel can do a hamburger room service the way you want it done, and, you know, trust me, I know my burgers. I've got 100 Burger Kings scattered around the world, and, you know, that's not an easy thing. You know, you want your cheeseburger done right, you want crisp lettuce, you want a real tomato, you want it served with mustard, you want ketchup, you want fantastic fries. You see how many hotels do that really well, and that'll tell you everything. You know, it's like a good chef, you know, you really want to taste his soups, because that's often the killer.
No Burger Kings doing delivery service at your hotels?
Not at the hotels, but, well, no, I take that back. We certainly, in Thailand, we can see our delivery boys rolling up and delivering something to a hotel guest, whether it be a pizza or a burger. So, but we hope it doesn't happen quite as often.
Right. So if you had a choice, this or that, then a room with a view or the best suite in the hotel?
I like space. I'd have to say the view, how much time do we really spend looking out at the view? It takes, you look at it for 5 minutes and then you're back in your room. Space for me is very important.
Right. Breakfast buffet or in-room dining?
I'd have to say I would look at the breakfast buffet to see how we compare, but I prefer to take my mornings easy, so
Right.
in-room dining.
An infinity pool or a private plunge pool?
I'm afraid I take the private plunge pool. So again, so many of our Anantars have that. I remember very distinctly going to the first private pool that I ever went to was the Four Seasons in Bali. And they lured me there because we didn't have any Anantars. And they lured me there because they had a private pool. And I'd never been in a hotel room with a private pool. This is back, 35 years ago. And Adrian Zecca was the genius behind that thing because it was going to be a Regent hotel. And I remember sitting there and I was having a glass of champagne, sitting by my pool, watching the planes land at Bali International Airport. And I picked up the phone and called my son in the States. He was going to school in Portland. And I said, you won't imagine where I am. He said, Dad, where are you? I said, I'm sitting here in Bali. I've got a glass of champagne and I have a private swimming pool. He said, wow, Dad. He said, if you were paying for it, how much would it cost? I said, I don't know, maybe $400 or $500. He said, $400 or $500? That's more than a whole month's rent for me. And I said, well, I'm not paying. They're comping me, so don't worry about it. And then he thought about it for a while. He says, Dad, are you having fun? I said, what do you expect? I'm sitting here with champagne and a private pool. He said, if you're having so much fun, Dad, why are you calling me? And that always tells you, there you are sitting alone, traveling alone on business, and you got a private pool and a glass of champagne, and you're all by yourself.
There you go. Stay at your own hotels or competitive hotels?
Both. I think it's as important to stay in my own hotel as it is to stay in our competitors. So I try and do a bit of both.
Finally, last one. Bigger rooms or better amenities? You said you like space, but...
that's a tough one. But, I'd have to go still with the bigger rooms. Amenities, I carry my own half the time anyway. So the bigger room space is just very important today. And after COVID, everybody wants space.
I asked this question was asked of Ratan Tata. Do you ever steal amenities from hotels?
I have to admit I have. 𝗀𝗃𝗪𝘁𝗀𝗪 is one of my favorite brands, and we have it in all the Anantars in Italy. And I take it home all the time, because we don't get it in Thailand.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Bill.
All right, my pleasure.
It was great to
Thank
have
you.
someone like Bill out here.
Thank you.